The following podcast may contain some adult language. You've been warned.
Those of you who got an invite, welcome to Nerd Prom.
No matter where in the world you are, we're all nerds! International. With the hyphen.
Welcome to Finding the Narrative, a Genesys RPG podcast. This is a show dedicated to the Genesys role-playing system from Fantasy Flight Games, a show in which we, your hosts, discuss all things Genesys from both the player's and a GM's perspective. I am Tony Fanning. With me, as always, is my good friend and co-host, Chris Holmes. How you doing, homie?
Oh, I'm doing awesome today. Doing awesome. Hooked up with my good friend Bryan, who we have on right now. Haven't talked to him in a while, so Bryan, what's up with you, buddy? Welcome to the show.
Hey, why, thank you. Not much. Just, enjoying being here with you guys, talk about some games.
Cool. Yeah, so, all right, so, gotta ask you.
Oh, yeah.
What did you cut your RPG teeth on? What was your first game, man?
Well, this is going to be a story that probably is going to sound familiar. As we were just talking about being children of the 80s. Mm-hmm. My first introduction to RPGs, my brother gave me for Christmas in 1983 or 4, the Larry Elmore Red Box D&D basic set.
Oh,
Red
yeah.
Box, man, you know.
Me too.
And
Me too.
So iconic, yeah. So that was my first exposure, and didn't play a lick of any RPG with any other people until probably about the year 2000.
Oh, really?
Wow.
So you got the game.
He got the game and played for like one hour session and then never again. And but I bought the books. I bought Dragon magazine whenever I could find it. Man, I just devoured that stuff for decades, and I played one session in 2000, and that fell through. Wow. And then I played with you, Chris. Remember, before we started Star Wars?
Dude, that was we had that only 5 years ago.
Yeah, it was like 3 years ago. We had that one session. That campaign fell through.
Well, true.
So to this day, and then we had the only time I've ever actually played D&D for more than one session was when you led us through Curse of Strahd. What was that, a year and a half ago?
Yeah, when I was down in Orlando still. Yep. Sweet.
But I have DM'd it. I DM'd my family through Lost Mines of Phandelver and Red Hand of Doom using 5th edition.
Cool, dude. That's a great one. And you've just finishing up a campaign with our old group.
That
Sean
is correct.
Awesome.
Yeah, Sean and Tilly and Dave down in Orlando, who you introduced us all to the Star Wars RPG system, narrative dice system. Yeah, so I've actually got more stick time on that than I do on D&D, but still love D&D, of course.
Cool. Awesome. Well, glad you're here. Glad you're here hanging out with us. So let's see. So news here. Ciphers and Masks, man. I picked it up the other day. What?
I don't know if Bryan knows, but how I cut my RPG chops, right? My first foray into role-playing was playing that little game that I played with Father Jacobs at the church.
Yeah.
Just kidding. I'm not.
Oh no!
Okay.
Everybody's like, "Oh crap! Where's Tony taking this?
Where is he taking this? Is this like
gonna get real dark there for a
second? Is this the Hellgate thing or what?"
No, sorry. I have a little bit of extra Jamesons in me today. Apologies, gentlemen.
Oh, it's gonna be one of those. Excellent. Be warned, everybody.
Ciphers and Masks. Yeah, I got it too. It's good.
I got it sitting here on my shelf. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So that basically completes the career source books for the 3 lines at FFG. About time, guys.
That's crazy. Yeah.
It's been on a boat forever.
I did actually have an audible to call on news. I did hear through the grapevines that people who have pre-ordered the Realms of Terranoth cards, adversary cards, they are shipping.
Oh, sweet.
Which means
people who pre-ordered them have received emails telling them that it is shipping. So.
Ooh. which means I could probably swing down to the FFG store later on this week.
Yeah, probably later this week. For those of us who pick it up out of the brick and mortar stores. So
You have an FFG store where you live?
Dude, FFG, their headquarters right here in the Twin Cities. They're 15 minutes away from me, bud. 20.
Jeez.
I'll give it 20 minutes.
That's crazy.
yeah, the only downside of living so close to them is you got to put up with 9 months of winter.
Yeah, don't you know? It gets so cold up here, yo. All right. Yeah. Well. Okay. Well, that's cool. That's cool. I'm looking forward to that then later on in the week.
Yeah, I just saw that about 10 minutes before the show. Forgot to tell you about it.
Excellent.
So for listener feedback, I just picked one for this week because we have such a lengthy topic.
True.
And it was a message from Adam. Adam Julian said, "Greetings from the interwebs. I have listened to your Genesis podcast thus far, and I have no particular comment, but figured I'd point something out to you in those last couple episodes. The new show segment, 50 Pieces of Awesome. There's no intro music. Well, at least not on iPhone podcast. Perhaps It's a copyright thing, or I'm listening to it from an iPhone podcast, but since I hear all the rest of your music, it might be an editing glitch. Not sure. Anyway, keep up the good work, Adam."
Adam, no, it's just iTunes. That piece of music is called, it's actually a hidden track on Time Flight by my buddy Dave Oliver. I was helping him, didn't help him create the music or anything, but inspired him and encouraged him to do this. And he gave me a copy of his CD, and there was a hidden track on there. And I was thinking, oh man, I love that music. Too bad you can't hear it on iTunes, but you can hear it anywhere else. So you can go to YouTube and hear it. But probably when I ripped it 10 years ago, I found it, so maybe it is a copyright thing. So I'm actually going to edit those couple episodes and put new music in it, and for here on out. So just because Tony and I don't want to, they won't put us to jail for that.
Yeah, I can't do jail, man. I am soft and plush and way too level.
Me too. No. No, but anyway, yeah, the piece of music was from a good friend of mine, and it was just, I don't know, just didn't quite work out somehow there or whatever. But anyways, that'll change. Change out the music.
All right. So speaking of 50 pieces of awesome, shall we get on over into that?
Let's get on into that.
Welcome to 50 Pieces of Awesome. This is where Chris finds something cool on the old interwebs and talks about it for, I don't know, however long he feels like it.
Yes.
So, Chris, what have you found for us this week?
All right, I searched all of the interwebs, all of them that are out there. All of them. And what I found is actually my good buddy Brian's Kinemus setting. Because it is 50 Pieces of Awesome. And the reason why is it kind of changed. First off, it kind of changed my thought on these anthropomorphic races, because these are cool. And he added dwarves. And one of the most important things is, though, he created the setting with his family. And you created the own maps, the art. There's like 74 pages in here. And Brian, let me ask you, how did this come about when you did this?
Well, when Genesis was coming out and I wanted to play with my family, I wanted to come. I've always loved world building, so we wanted to build a world with the family that we could then define some history and all that kind of stuff, and then make characters and adventure in. We actually used I don't know if you call it an RPG game necessarily, but it's called Microscope, and it was put out by I forget, Lame Mage Studios, I believe.
Okay.
And it's a set of rules that you kind of play like a game, and you go through and you take turns acting out scenes and defining a history for, it could be anything really. And so we used that to make the world, and it was a lot of fun. My kids, are young and stuff, so we had a lot of fun doing that. we each came up with the race that we wanted and a little bit of history. And then I kind of took it and ran with it and just created a setting.
Yeah, you did. You sprinted with this damn thing. You didn't run. I mean, and you added dwarves, which Tony and I can definitely appreciate.
Very much so. The more dwarven, the better.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, no gnomes. Well, not playable gnomes because gnomes suck. But
Killable
gnomes are evil.
Yeah, and actually, in my setting, gnomes actually literally are evil dwarves. They're evil, corrupted dwarves.
Yes, I'm in love with this even more.
And they exist. They exist solely to fight and defeat, basically.
That is cool. So they're like the goblins of D&D.
Absolutely.
That is so cool, dude. Yeah. I would now. Did you end up posting this up on the FFG site? I can't remember. I know you emailed me.
I did not post it in the actual user created settings subfolder or subforum, but I did post it I think I posted it in the GM binder thread or something like that a while back.
Yeah, so it looks like you used the GM binder here, and it's beautiful. It looks great.
Yeah, GM binder has been really good for me. But yeah, I haven't really what I would consider finished it yet, so I didn't want to post it up. Plus, I don't know why anybody else would necessarily care. There's nothing.
There's some. You know why people would probably care is that it's awesome. But the thing is, there is. You know what's cool is this song book that you've created. You created these songs for curse and attacks.
Time out. That's one of the main reasons why I didn't want to post it, because actually I kind of plagiarized the names of the songs and what they do from an old wonderful game called EverQuest. So if you're an EverQuest fan out there, you would actually recognize that most of this, or actually all of the song names that I put in there, are actually from EverQuest. So,
well, that's cool though. I mean, that's way back in the show.
If it's a fan-created document, the way I understand it's a fan-created document, and you are not trying to get anything from it, sell it, if you're just giving it away for free, I'm pretty sure nobody's going to say a word.
Well, no, yeah, I know. I mean, I'm not worried about legal repercussions or copyright disputes, but I figured before I release it out there in the wild, just to sort of, make it creative, just come up with my own stuff. But there's that.
All right. Well, that's cool. Yeah, and like I said, it's got maps and all the art. You said all the artwork is unique too, and you've given credit where credit is due there. So that's awesome, man.
Yeah. So that was a big thing for me, is I wanted to make sure. And I've seen several examples where people have the first page after the title page is a big credit page where you list the art and the artist, and making a link to it or whatever. And I've seen a couple. I don't want to make this into a big thing, but just real quick, I have seen one or two things online that or on the forum that kind of tick me off, because people basically just copying and pasting entire chapters out of the Terranoth book and stuff like that, and it's kind of come on, guys, that's a little in bad taste, Yeah. I mean, I understand a reference here or there, but when you're got 5 pages straight of, copy and pasted text straight from a book that just released 2 weeks ago, it's a little.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, normally this is where I would go, hey, people out on the internet, check this out. So if you are in GM Binder, go check it out. And so normally I would say, whoever you are out there that created this, you are awarded 50 pieces of awesome. But Bryan, since you're here, Chris can give you those 50 pieces of awesome himself.
Sweet.
That's right. Here you go. Darn it, I don't have the 50 pieces of awesome. Where are they? They sound a lot like this.
You can mail them to me. Yeah.
You know it.
All right.
Yeah, great job on that, bud. That's awesome.
Oh, thanks.
Let
me just give a real quick plug for the map making software I use, because there's a lot out there.
Oh, that's true.
But this one was really cool. It's something I kickstarted, so I got it maybe a little cheaper than you can get it nowadays. But I've used a lot of different map making software like Auto Realm and Campaign Cartographer and Hexographer and Incarnate and all those. And Incarnate, by the way, is awesome for free. So if you don't want to spend any money, you should definitely check that out.
Yep, I made
but the one that I
use,
yeah. But the one that I use is called Otherworld Mapper. And like I say, I kickstarted it, but I think you can get it from their website. I don't remember who makes it, but if you look up Otherworld Mapper, it's really, really good. So if you're interested in mapping for campaigning or whatever as a DM or whatever, it's a really good piece of software. So just a quick plug there.
Nice.
Oh, no, thank you. Awesome.
Yeah, man.
All right. Well, we do have, as I said, a big episode ahead. We are going to be talking about world building. And the name of today's episode is called Building Better Worlds.
All right.
So, shall we get into it?
Yeah, man.
Okay, welcome to the Book of Genesis. Just kidding. We're doing Setting the Tone, folks. That's right. There isn't really a section of the book that covers this. It's all over the place for various different little things that we're doing. So we are just going to call it all Setting the Tone. And we are world building today. We were going to have this really cool, I hoped, brainstorming session. Could be horribly just just unorganized and chaotic, and everybody stops listening. But I'm going to have fun regardless.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, me too.
Good.
So I basically came up with like 6 pillar questions that you want to ask about this is your building blocks of your campaign. What do you want for these pillars, so to speak? And then you can just expand upon it from there and build the structure of your game world. And the first of those is the tone or the theme. So in this, your tone or your theme, this is where you decide whether you want to play superheroes or whether you want to play you want it to be a modern setting like cyborgs, or you want to play a mecha game where you're fighting giant kaiju or something like that. So I had this little format that I came up with for each of us to kind of bring a couple of ideas to the table, and then we would kind of try to sell it to the others. And then at the end of it all, we either decide on 1 or 2 of those that we like and go on to the next one.
Perfect.
You guys like that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
So who wants to kick it off? Sell me on your idea.
All right, I'm going to sell you on my idea then, man.
All right.
Horror as a tone or theme.
Okay.
That's one of them. And
No,
that kind of goes into Cthulhu. Investigation, so my 2 are investigation and horror. And because when I was thinking of this, I was introduced or invited to play in Jamie's Call of the Cthulhu game. I'm like, hey, I had all kinds of things going in my head there. So yes, that kind of a theme to it.
Okay. All right. See, I came up with 2. Mine was more like this world where there's lots of freelancers and mercenaries and mercenary companies, and they're kind of working for the various different factions that we would come up with, and you would play as mercs or freelancers. But it'd also be in a world where there's a lot of exploration, so you could have these exploration companies, and things like that. So it would be more exploratory, a little bit less investigative, and a lot more not dungeon crawly, but lots of wilderness hex crawl type.
Okay, that's cool. Have you guys ever played the Kingmaker adventure path for Pathfinder?
No, I did not.
That's kind of a hex crawl thing too, where you kind of go to another hex, you randomly select, hey, here's what's here. And you kind of do some exploration and kind of explore the map a bit. But
That's cool.
yeah, man.
Okay. Do you have anything you would like to?
What do you got there, Brian? What do you have for
This was one of the ones I didn't really brainstorm much on, but I was just thinking earlier, something like a rediscovery of ancient artifacts type of a theme, where you've maybe got could be like post-apocalyptic, or it could be early civilization tech, and maybe there's collapsed ancient empires with mysterious magical artifacts laying around, and you as early uncivilized tribes are just trying to figure out what to do with it all.
Excellent.
Okay, so artifact. What would you call that? Like art
discovery, maybe, or something. Yeah.
Ancient artifact discovery from ancient empires.
Cool. Maybe even like, what if it was like, okay, so what if we were talking, now I'm trying to sell mine here, so what if we incorporated that into a part of the exploration that this...
I like it. I think those go hand in hand, to be honest.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, like the exploration and artifact discovery, kind of mix that together, and we could even throw in...
and mercs. Yeah, it could even be maybe different groups are hiring people to salvage and find stuff and bring it to them to gain power or something.
And it could be, it could be almost a race to find these artifacts and discover too.
And maybe the heads of the different various factions could even be Cthulhu-esque type horror gods or something. We could combine all of them.
We could, or the things we're searching for could be
could awaken Cthulhu.
Could be people are trying to prevent some sort of horrific apocalypse.
Yeah,
these artifacts are needed for that.
Absolutely. Yeah, there could be some factions that want to awaken him, and some factions that are trying to prevent it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
That sounds really cool. All right.
Well, I have arrows next to exploration, freelancers and mercs, and ancient artifacts discovery from long lost empires. Because the rest of it, mean? Well, those are the three that we've picked so far. For our tone and theme,
yeah.
Those are the checkbox. And if the GM or DM, sorry, more of a GM here, would want to make it more into a horror kind of thing, I think the world will be open enough to let them do that.
Well, we can incorporate the horror rules into it as a background thing if we wanted to.
There you go.
Like the madness rules and such. Because some of these artifacts could be quite powerful and could just cause madness, period.
Absolutely.
Sweet. Okay.
All right, so on to the next pillar, which is really the world or the environment. Now, this is kind of cool. I'd like to go first because I had this really cool idea, and Chris even was like, after he wrote his, he was like, "Oh, that one's really cool." So I had this idea of this world where there's these extraplanar manifest zones, where because these ancient elder elementals had basically been slain by the current gods, and pieces of these elder elementals fell to the world and created these elemental manifest zones, which then became these various different kingdoms. So you have, an earth kingdom in here. I know it sounds kind of Avatarish, but it wouldn't be. It wouldn't be kung fu or anything like that.
There's nothing wrong with that.
There is totally nothing wrong with that, by the way. We're Avatar fans too.
But you could even have the air people worship not just the people who live in the air zone have not just, they're divided into separate factions too, where you have the four winds, the north wind, the south and the west and the east winds. Dude. And it could also kind of be post-apocalyptic. Like there was this huge war between the gods and the elementals. And
Well, if these pieces of elementals fell to the earth, or whatever, you would create, I would think it would create some sort of post-apocalyptic thing.
Yeah, and there'd be, just huge fire zones of where the elemental fire manifested. And, of course, these would affect magic in various different ways also.
That's cool. Yeah.
I like that. What do you got there, Brian?
Nothing as cool as that.
I know what you mean. Hey, it's a brainstorming session. All ideas are cool.
All ideas are cool, just some aren't as cool as Tony's.
Until they're not as cool as Tony's, right?
No, I like that. I like that. I don't have much to add here.
Not much to add to that. Well, for me, again, kind of thinking that whole Cthulhu thing, but going from what you're talking about, maybe it's post-apocalyptic further off in a more developed, like they have recovered, the world has recovered from the apocalypse, right? And it's kind of moved forward to a Victorian age steampunky type, where it's kind of like coal pollution based. But I don't know if it'll mesh well with yours. But anyways, that was my idea, where it's more Victorian. Go ahead.
What if where the people live are these Victorian age cities, and the wilderness is where the manifest zones,
like the safe zones, like the safe
so
zones
you'd
are
have,
like these cities that are coal-based Victorian age cities, but outside is more post-apocalyptic. So you've got these pillars of, not pillars, but points of light, if you will.
So basically, your contrast is that you have these Victorian age cities that are just polluted with soot. I mean, maybe they're even domed in, and they're using this energy that they find from the earth, and they're polluting their own environment, but they can't go anywhere else because if they step outside, they're in these huge elemental manifest zones where Earth.
Maybe that's what's driving our tone and our theme of trying to find these ancient artifacts to solve that problem. Maybe that's
solve that problem. It's like Fallout. You're the vault dweller that has to leave the safe zone and go and find the water chip to save your vault.
There you go.
That's cool.
And different. Yeah. And maybe you may have different. What do you call those? Exploration groups, or what do you call that? Expeditions. You may have multiple expedition companies that are in one city, or each city is basically its own expedition company that's trying to do this, or however you want to do it. Or maybe there's just one real big city.
Well, you like the idea of competing, like it's a race to capture these artifacts. Maybe these artifacts these elemental pieces, so to speak, and pieces of the gods' weapons from that war, could be an alternate power source instead of these fossil fuels that they're burning through and that are polluting their cities. Mm-hmm. And these people send out these exploration teams to find them into these horribly dangerous manifest zones where there's, monsters and elementals and the people that go there. You could have, again, dipping into the other sections here. You have the magic section where you have kind of people who are experts in elemental magic that are some of these people that are experts in the elemental magic make it easier to explore into those manifest zones.
Cool.
What do you think of that?
I like that.
I think it sounds awesome. Yeah.
I like that.
Okay. Cool. So we're kind of a post-apocalyptic, extraplanar manifest zones, Victorian age polluted city type.
Yes, exactly. That's what we're doing.
We can't find it all.
We're totally taking every brainstorming idea and making them work together.
Why not? Man? That's what a good GM does, man.
I don't know if that was what our original intent was, but it seems to be cooler than anything I could come up with myself.
That's right. It's the kitchen sink approach.
Yes, most definitely.
Not to steal, but this reminds me a little bit of Winter Eternal. But except for that's just like everything outside of their cities is fucking cold as hell because their sun blew up.
Oh wow! Yeah, I don't think I've heard about it, and I think I've listened to the Wild Die a couple times. I think they had talked about it on there, but haven't really.
Yeah, that's a Savage.
Paid attention.
Savage World setting done by Just Insert Imagination, and they basically, there's these cities that are underground cities, and domed in cities. I think they're called enclaves. I can't remember, but and they are separated by miles and miles of Arctic wilderness and like super like death cold. If you're out in it for any length of time, it kills you. And there's these explorations that go out and search for artifacts. And it was a fantasy world that had its sun explode, and it's what's left of it.
Oh, wow. Huh. That's cool.
Yeah. Just kind of where we were kind of talking, it almost sounded a little bit like that, but it's not the same. Okay, cool. On to, I think we've got a good idea of what we want.
I think so.
We want kind of a exploratory tone, but we also want almost like warring factions with a little bit of horror thrown in, right?
I think horror can be. I think that's one of those things where we could put rules in there for it, but it's one of those things where I don't know if that will be like a main theme, but it could potentially be. if GM or DM wants to, if a GM wants to pull horror in. Not every group will want to, but for us here, I like some horror. I like for it.
Well,
to
you know,
be
I like
possible.
horror too. I mean, I've been writing that Deep Madness.
Oh yeah, dude.
Thing for Nerds International Virtual Con, and it's definitely a Cthulhu-esque Genesis game. So
yeah.
All right. Well, the next thing is we want to decide what kind of playable races we're going to create, or archetypes we would like to kind of throw in. Now, this may be another kitchen sink concept, but I had this idea because of the whole elemental extraplanar manifest zone type thing. I had this idea that some of these creatures could be what we would call amalgams, or they would be part elemental, or they would have an elemental bloodline, so to speak.
Like a human that has these, like a humanoid that kind of has these elemental.
It's like
kind of like
Genesys, or what do they call them?
Genasi, as they call it.
Genasi or Genesys from D&D. Yeah.
That's cool.
Kind of sort of like that, but more along the lines of like they are actually, like they don't just have blue skin and wispy hair if they're an air person. Like they not only would have, they would almost be a manifestation of air, not human. Cool. They would be a manifestation of air. They would be this being made of cloud or whatever, or vapor, or in the case of like the earth ones, they would be a living gemstone of some kind.
Oh, that's
that
cool.
Walks around. That's humanoid.
Really cool. Yeah, you could make that with some pretty powerful upsides, but you could also balance it probably pretty well with some, not too debilitating, but some, negative aspects too. Just
well, like that fire elemental guy doesn't really read a lot of books.
Yeah,
I wouldn't think.
Clothing not an option.
Yeah. Exactly. So you're seeing these. So the first thought that kind of came into my head when you're talking about that is some of these freelancers and mercs. If you have an elemental on your team, one of these people on your team, they could potentially help find these artifacts that you're looking for. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, or they could be a hindrance if they're in the wrong elemental manifestation zone.
That's a good point.
If they're a fire guy in a water zone, good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Sorry, I told you. Oh, you're making a fire, dude. Oh man, this part of the campaign is going to be completely underwater. This entire campaign is an underwater campaign. Bummer, dude.
We'll just call you Sputter.
Yeah, exactly. Did you have something there, Brian, for a race?
Well, one of the things that I like sometimes, I don't know if it would work in this particular campaign we're coming up here,
Of
but
course it would.
I like to have lots of different humans where they're differentiated based on their tribe or location or clan type of thing. I'm not sure if that works here or not, but
would you think maybe human city states where each culture is a little different?
Yes, absolutely, that type of thing.
Oh, cool. I'll make a note of that.
Well, we could even, each human city state could have a separate archetype of its own.
Right. Maybe the one that's closer to a Earth manifest zone or stone manifest zone or something, is more brawny or something, and less
your
agile.
laborers, maybe your laborer, yeah,
like a labor type, something like that.
Okay.
Okay. What about you, Chris? You got
Dwarves.
Dwarves, yeah.
We gotta have dwarves. We have to have. Now,
every setting should have dwarves.
Yes, and the thing is, there may have to be a faction of like the dwarven mafia.
What if we threw the trope of dwarves on its head a little bit? Here's an idea I just came up with. What if, okay, so you want to have dwarves. What if, so the human lands are these people that live down on the ground and in these domed cities. What if the dwarves were the people that made the domed cities for them?
Yeah.
And the dwarves are nomadic.
Ooh. They're what? I'm sorry?
They're nomadic. And they travel in these large moving enclaves where they go from city to city, repairing or building. Instead of having underground, they have these huge machine cities that they drive from place to place.
That would be pretty cool.
Through manifest zones and things like that. They're like almost like giant. What's the movie that's coming out?
Exactly, Mortal Engines or something.
Mortal
like
Engines. That's exactly what if it was like that.
City to city. Cool.
What if the dwarves were also partly responsible for the breakup? The apocalypse. Maybe they had a hand as tinkerers and forgecraft of breaking up the elementals.
Maybe it was an ancient, super powerful dwarven smith that created the weapon the gods used.
Yeah. So maybe as penance, they've been forced to go around and save the rest of the world.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
So they bear a lot of guilt. They're kind of not happy. Dour dwarves. I mean, who's ever heard of a dour dwarf?
Right, but I mean, they still have some of the dwarven tropes. They're blacksmiths and builders, but they're also kind of like, there's nomads that move from place to place. I thought that sounds really cool.
That does sound cool.
That's cool, dude. That is pretty cool. Yeah, my other idea was, and this was kind of more from the Victorian age thing, would be like clockwork humanoids, like these tinkerers. I think of Hellboy. Right, and that main bad guy. And hey, maybe go ahead.
What about clockwork droids? We'd use the droid thing from Star Wars as a template for
humanoids,
that.
Yeah, use droids.
They could be made by the dwarves.
Yeah, what if the dwarves were the droid mechanic type people? Yeah, that'd be cool.
Ooh, yep.
I like incorporating all these ideas. I don't know about my last one. My last one was kind of, I don't know, I all of a sudden wanted this to be very Mad Max. And then there's these tribes of mutants that move about the wasteland. They're not even, they're more like beastly mutants. They could be an adversary or something like that in this setting.
That's what I think so.
Yeah. It kind of reminds, have either of you ever read The Dying Earth? Stories.
Yes, years ago.
Yeah, so do you remember when you leave civilization in that world, the out in the wilderness, there's all these creepy, just super creepy and super powerful and super deadly, like critters and mutants and crazy humanoid things that basically kill anybody who goes out there.
It's all wild. It's all crazy. It all wants to eat you.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember that. Yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Well, I think we've got some racial archetypes. I mean, pretty much, if we have the 4 elements, we have maybe 4 or 5 human archetypes from the various different cities. Mm-hmm. And then your dwarves and your clockwork, you're looking at 10, about 11 races or archetypes. That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, that's cool. I even threw a note in here that the amalgams could be potential adversaries too. Granted, all of these could be, but there could be the elementals, your pure elementals that are out there. You're right in the apocalyptic areas.
Okay.
Outside the cities. All right. Cool.
All right. So that brings us to magic and technology. Now, these are 2 different kind of sides to the same coin, but really they are separate.
True.
Now, Chris, what did you want? What were you thinking?
Well, I didn't go outside the box on this but I was thinking that arcane could be just an arcane, just straight from the core book, right? Be a magic power. The other one I was thinking was runes, and these are from the dwarves that when I was thinking of the races, I'm thinking runes, and maybe some of these clockwork humanoids have runes in them, or they're you know what I mean.
Okay.
Like the dwarven runes have maybe they're the creators, the mechanics Maybe they use rune magic to do that stuff. That was my thought.
Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, isn't that like kind of basically what Realms of Terranoth did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Maybe you could combine that. Maybe the runes are based on shards or whatever these artifacts are from the elemental manifest zone. So maybe the runes are attuned to a specific element or something like that. So you could have air runes and water runes or whatever.
Elemental runes. Maybe that kind of goes into maybe one of your ideas there, Tony.
Yeah, one of my ideas I had was elemental magic, and basically the only magic that is available is from the 4 elements. It's drawn from these manifest zones. It's drawn from.
Yeah, that's right.
That was kind of what I was thinking. That, and then of course some divine magic from gods is what I was trying to think about. But I don't know. Maybe we do have arcane like sorcery, and then have on top of that the elemental runes that are a separate magic type, which would be almost combining the two, like Bryan said.
I'm wondering.
Like, how would it work? That's what you want when you're thinking about your magic. How does it work? Like, arcane magic is supposed to manifest this power from the creation, leftover power from creation, is generally what I would think when I think arcane magic. It's like, the leftover.
Going through kind of what we've come up with already, I don't know if arcane really fits, because I like more of the elemental theme to it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Where the power comes from these primordial elementals that were destroyed, like you had said before, right?
So
maybe instead of having arcane, divine, primal, or whatever like Genesys has, maybe you get rid of all that, and then you have a separate magic skill for each of the elements, each of the 4 elements, maybe.
Right, but maybe we have a 5th one that incorporates all the old things that old arcane magic is, but it's that second idea of mine, and that's blood sorcery.
Oh.
How does that work?
It draws magic energy from people using their life force to power the spells. So you have to apply. It's going to be something mostly villains are going to have. It's not something that you would really want your players to be tinkering around with. But maybe if you want to leave that as something, because there's tinkering going on with this blood magic in the background, it's maybe awakening this ancient elder force that would incorporate the horror side of things.
Oh, that's interesting.
I like that.
I like it, yeah.
I do.
Because you said the origin of the world was, there was a war between the old gods and the elements. So if the elemental magic comes from the elements, maybe this blood sorcery is a rediscovery of the magic or whatever, the power of the elder gods. Yeah, that'd be interesting.
That'd be cool.
Really set them against each other that way, yeah.
Nice. All right.
Okay, so basically our magic skills would be then one for each element. So you'd have earth magic, air magic, and you could you could even have them tied to specific stats and not necessarily have them all. Maybe, I'm just spitballing here, but maybe like your earth magic is tied to brawn instead of intellect. And then your air magic is what would you air magic would be maybe cunning. Your water magic would be agility,
and your earth magic would be brawn,
and then your fire would be presence,
I like definitely presence for fire, definitely.
And then then blood sorcery would
be willpower. Yeah.
Willpower. So none of the magics are actually powered by intelligence. Intelligence is more of us for science and stuff like that.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah.
Intellect. Sorry.
Well, it might be. You use that for knowledge. Of course, you'd still need knowledge skills or whatever. Maybe. Yeah.
Right. I don't know.
That'd be
then would we pull in arcane and just link it to agility or not agility? Intelligence. Whereas
intellect. I don't know if we need it though.
No.
Maybe we have psionics. I don't know. Like that to intellect. But I honestly think leaving intellect for more of the sciencey type stuff and being your builders.
More
like you could have
true.
alchemy and science type guys. Your mechanics guys that
the
are
dwarves. Yeah.
The intellect would be your main source for those skills.
Right.
That's actually a nice segue into the tech part then, because you said magic and tech kind of go hand in hand here.
Well, that was just an idea. That didn't.
No, I like that. I like that a lot, actually. I kind of like how we threw magic on its head, where everything else but intellect, and you could cast spells.
Yeah, it's good. It's cool. Yeah.
Well, I like the idea of you had this kind of. Now I picture these cities as being very steampunk inside these cities. The cities themselves are dark, gritty, dirty, filthy, polluted places where but there's the people who live in the upper tiers don't experience that because by golly it's nice and shiny and pretty up here.
Of course they don't.
And they would incorporate elemental magic right into their technology. And the way of doing that is to bring these elemental rune shards from all over the realms and these manifest zones, bring them back to the cities where they can power more and more stuff with magic as opposed to powering it with technology, because the technology they've been powering it with is polluting their small livable zones that they have. It's an idea.
Yep, it's a good idea.
What if we had some? I know, Brian, you mentioned salvaging stuff earlier, mentioned like artifact finding. But what if there was like those old gods had technology that was still out there? So we had maybe some advanced tech even hidden out in these wastelands that was used by the gods. It would, any super advanced technology would be considered magic by an untrained person. So, you could even find, I'm thinking, blaster type weapons or
that's kind of the idea I had. Was kind of like, what was that movie Stargate, where it was like Egyptian temples and gods, but they were using like science fiction technology type thing. So maybe you stumble across an ancient temple out in the desert or wilderness or jungle or something, and you creep inside.
It's that whole Asgard thing from like the Thor movies, right? Where advanced technology is magic. It looks like magic, right?
Yeah, they're using swords.
But incorporating some of that into, because there probably weren't just like gods that used these. I'm thinking there weren't just gods that used advanced technology too, but you might even have some biotechnology, like this. I'm picturing a guy who it picks up a device out in the middle of nowhere, and all of a sudden it turns his arm into a tentacle, and he's got this tentacle weapon where he can just reach out and touch or try to entangle people with his tentacle arm thing. I don't know. It's like cyberware, but it's super advanced bioware.
That's cool.
Leftover bio weapons from the war. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Sweet. Yeah, one of the things that I had was, have you guys ever watched that show Warehouse 13 from the Sci-Fi Channel? So a lot of their quote-unquote artifacts, they basically found artifacts, brought them to the warehouse. The 13th warehouse, manifestation of this warehouse, right? And all of these and a lot of these devices that they used to track down these artifacts were very antiquated Victorian age steampunky devices, right?
Okay.
And that's kind of the feel. That's kind of the thought that I had when I was thinking of tech. I kind of had that thought in my mind with that. You know what I mean?
So okay. We have these. Let's just picture this in my head. So we have like you're talking about like a detector of some kind that's going. There's like this group of people is going out into the. Let's say they're going out into a fire manifest zone, and they're all tricked out in this like brass armor and like almost like spacesuit type stuff.
Almost,
with gears and steam coming out of it and stuff.
Something along those lines.
And one of the guys holds up this big like device that almost looks like an old clockwork device and is like using it as a detector to try and detect these.
It may have like and it's maybe got like vacuum tubes and shit on it, like antiquated, just kind of old looking, but still most definitely functionable.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
That's a thought. I don't know if that's that deserves an arrow to say yes. Let's try that.
It's a possibility.
But I think the magic is tech thing is a yes.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah, I like the idea of the war between the existing tech and this new source of magic tech that they're trying to switch to, and it's so rare, and some people want to use it to manifest their own magical powers, and other people want to use it to, like the super rich want to use it to power their life,
make their life more comfortable. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So you have people out there that are like, oh, I want that rune shard for myself because it gives me the power to shoot flame bolts out of my arse. But somebody else, a rich person is like, no, that's going to power my fireplace. Sorry.
Yeah.
Nice.
So you have conflicts there.
Well, absolutely.
Yep. Anything, Brian? Do you have anything?
For tech?
For the tech, yeah.
No, I don't. I think we've covered it. Sorry.
I think we've beaten the tech horse to death.
So magic is tech. What else did we have here?
Salvage tech, and then your steampunk antiquated. I think we got them all.
We worked them all in, so we
molded it together, dude. That was really what this original idea was supposed to be. Pour it all in the bowl and see what we get.
That's right.
It's jungle juice.
It sounds pretty. I mean, I'll be honest, man. So far, it sounds pretty cool. I'd actually like to play in this setting.
Hey, we will.
That's the idea. We're gonna take and build this world over the next few, months, and then make it free to everybody. That's my idea, anyway.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, man.
I'd be up for it.
Cool.
Okay.
All right.
And then, kind of my last. I mean, we've been doing this, but this idea of who's in charge, what are the major conflicts, and who would be the adversaries that the players would be facing. So,
yeah.
Go ahead, Brian.
No, I just go ahead, Brian.
What do you have there?
Oh, well, I think we've kind of already talked about it, but I actually had written down small-scale city-states like in Primeval Thule. But I think I think we've already actually kind of adapted that, where we said, you have these individual little domed cities that are each kind of their own thing. So
but they're like mega cities.
They're like mega cities, sure. So, but because the resources are limited, I think you've got, not necessarily each city altogether, but like you say, the rich people, the people that can fund expeditions or whatever, it's a race to go and get the artifacts. So you almost got class. Oh, you got class warfare within the cities, and the city states themselves are trying to keep their city alive, right?
Okay.
Right.
Yep. Class warfare, and then city versus city kind of thing.
Yeah.
Who can save their city the quickest?
Yeah.
Kind of. Okay. Cool. Yeah. I just wanted to kind of capture that. And one of my ideas was that this conflict is on a global scale. And I think that's kind of assumed, right? Almost.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and then you have the neutral party would be these builders, the dwarves. They move in there. Maybe there's like, I don't know, only a handful. Maybe there's even only one now. Last dwarven enclave, which is the dwarven enclave that moves from place to place, and it is neutral,
Like the
to everything.
enclave.
Yeah, maybe one or maybe two or three. Not very many. They're few and far between. Maybe there's even a couple of lost ones out there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That would be interesting. I would say neutral to the dwellers in the city-states, but they could still be preyed upon by whatever's out there in the wasteland. So that could be an adventure hook, to go and almost like a caravan guard or something, protect the dwarven enclave or something.
Yep, like they're neutral to the city versus city conflict. Like these warring cities against each other. They're not, it's kind of a, I don't know, almost be a Cold War, because you can't send armies into a wilderness that is a wasteland that is filled with elemental danger.
Right.
So these cities are basically performing like large-scale espionage or corporate warfare against each other almost.
Yeah.
And then you have the dwarves are just, oh, nope, we're just here to make things for you and make money doing it. That's it, you know.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One of the adversary groups that I kind of noodled upon was this anti-tech terrorists.
That sounded cool. I liked that idea.
So
maybe the elemental purists are anti-tech.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Like there's these maybe factions amongst the elemental amalgam communities of their own where they're just like, no, technology is what caused the war between the gods and the elementals, and they eschew all technology. They're like strictly worship the elements. They're
tear down the bubbles and let the elemental chaos evolve all humanity, man. See what happens.
Elemental purists, all about the chaos.
They could be, and I think it's great to have like the amalgams leading it. Some of like each one. So you'd have not only that, but you'd have the anti-tech terrorists that don't like each other. Like you have the earth and the air terrorists that just absolutely hate each other.
Yeah.
But are forced together from time to time to stop technology, and that would be another conflict you could have. And one I had was, of course, I had that kind of elemental war, and I think this rates that.
Yep.
But I also had this one where I had the scavengers versus warlords, which I think is the class warfare that we were talking about. The have-nots versus the haves.
Yeah. I think it might be interesting. You could even have almost like I had civil war inside a single kingdom, but I think you could adapt that to the setting and say maybe inside of a single city, or it could even be in all the cities, but at least one, you have like maybe multiple noble houses, or whatever you want to say, rich houses that are vying for supremacy inside of a single city.
Oh, you could have like two major warring houses, one that believes in the old technology and one that believes in the new.
Yeah.
And they're like merchant houses. I'm thinking
absolutely.
Here,
of course. Yeah.
Like just picturing the two opposite sides of things. You've got the Harkonnens and the Atreides. They're pretty much idealistic opposites.
Right. Yeah, it could be interesting. Yeah. You could also
sorry. No, I am too. I'm just looking at all my notes and I'm going, I love all of this. There isn't anything here that I want to throw away.
You could this might be a little too goody two shoes for some people, but since I always try to run a family game, you could have something where you have almost like a paladin or a holy organization that's trying to capture these things, and not for rich people, but for the haves, but wants them to make a better world for the whole city, the have-nots even, or something. So there's always this constant struggle, between them and the rich folk, maybe.
Yeah, maybe like a charitable church that is trying to do so for the greater good of mankind, as opposed to their own greed.
Just for their own greed, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Mm-hmm. Church of good people.
Exactly.
That's how I was writing it.
Church of good people. Nice.
Well,
they could be paladins or something. Almost like what is it called in Fallout? The Iron Brotherhood? Steel? No.
Brotherhood of Steel.
Brotherhood of Steel, but without being jerks.
Right.
Like actual good Steel Brotherhood.
Oh, no. Yeah. We could call them the Founders, because they want to found a new society that's utopian.
There you go.
Sweet. All right, excellent. Wow, that's a lot of pretty good stuff for a brainstorming. What have we missed? What do we need? Any other ideas floating in your heads?
There's lots of ideas floating in my heads now, but both of them.
It's called brainstorming for a reason. Both your heads? Well, brainstorming for a reason.
We didn't talk about careers. I mean, I guess Genesis is kind of easy to make careers. They're really just a bundle of skills, but I don't know. You could talk about careers.
No, that's cool. Let's throw that out there.
Yeah. So, unique careers.
Yeah, unique careers.
And I like the idea of making the various different elemental magics a career, because their skill set would be a little different for each one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, basically you would have
like an elementalist, career, right?
Yeah, an elementalist, which you would have an air elementalist, an earth, a water, and a fire, and each one would have maybe a different minor changes in the skills. Like each one would, of course, have magic as their primary
magic. Yep.
But then have a kind of a group of skills that not enhances that, but what's the term I'm searching for?
Augments it, like the knowledge.
Synergizes with it. Yeah.
Synergizes with it. Yeah. See, the man knows where I'm
pulling out the corporate buzzwords.
There you go. Synergy, baby.
I go back to like the earth element. Okay, this guy uses brawn. So brawn, he has brawl is a skill for him.
Oh yeah.
Resilience is a skill for him.
Resilience, yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah.
So, and then a couple other, like, he'd have knowledge lore, so that he could, augment his spells with that. But then on top of that, he would have, a couple other skills that all fit into focusing towards brawn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or towards the earth element. Survival would be another one. Even though it's not brawn based, but survival fits an earth elementalist. That's an idea.
I think something like a tinkerer, or one of these mechanics.
Oh, I like the idea of a tinkerer, or even a mad scientist type.
There is a mad. Here, let's look at the mad science. So there is a mad scientist. I have the careers. I have the careers in there.
And just call it
mad scientist, steampunk, weird war. Yeah. Physics. Yeah, there we go. So what they have is there's your alchemy, coercion, knowledge, Oh, that's cool.
That's awesome.
Yep. And explorers, we're going to want to have just explorers that are, focus on being scouts and finders of things and whatnot.
Yep. But you could have sort of leader class too, right? That's kind of a.
You could have all kinds of different city classes. You think about it. You could even do an entire campaign in one city where you have socialites and entertainers and
laborers, little
laborers, and you have all these different city classes, so to speak. You could even
absolutely
careers.
Yep.
But I had another one that was in my head and it just kind of gone. The blood mage. Doing an actual class for blood mage and making it optional, because if you don't want to go down that route and you'd rather have them stay as antagonists, but making it an optional thing where you could have, very much like Terranoth, they have the rune caster as a optional.
Right.
This would be an optional type magic user that the players may not necessarily get their hands on if the GM doesn't want them to. But there would be a career there if you wanted to have a blood mage in your group and you were okay with it as a GM.
There you go. That's cool.
What would be interesting to me would be, and it could also create conflict with pure amalgams, but what if you had humans that combined, two or more of the elements, into a new type of magic that drew from both. So if you had, what
if they turned the elemental magic into a science that combines them? So that that would give us our mad scientist kind of feel.
That's what I'm thinking. Is that what our mad scientist would be doing?
Yeah, that would basically be what alchemy does. I think alchemy and such that it combines the elements in ways that they come up with new effects, but the elemental purists are absolutely going to hate that.
Oh, they're going to hate that. Absolutely. Yeah. It'd be a huge conflict. Yeah.
And it gives something for that intellect skill to do. With, I'm picturing these weapons like quasi-elemental stuff. Remember in the old D&D where you had the quasi-elementals that kind of combined two elements together?
Like a smoke elemental, which combined air and fire or something?
Yeah,
water and fire.
Exactly.
Yeah,
steam elemental.
Lightning elemental, which was air and
Earth. Maybe
Earth. I don't remember what it was, but
mud elemental combining earth and water.
Yeah, lava elemental that combined earth and fire.
Yeah,
things exactly.
Like that. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Damn it! Stop it. Okay, lava, smoke. What was the other one?
Steam.
Steam.
Fire and water.
Air. That's air.
Mud.
Is that? Oh, that's air. That's fire.
I came up with mud.
Well, I guess
earth and water.
I don't know.
Mud. That's cool. Yeah.
If you looked it up, I'm sure we could find something.
There's somewhere. I can't remember. So you had earth and water was mud. You had air and fire is smoke. You had
was it air and fire smoke?
Yep. And you had water and fire is steam.
Steam. Yep.
And
you can have all kinds of different ones because there's 4 of them, right?
Fire and water is lava. There would be a total of 8 after you did them all. I think maybe more. 12,
yeah,
6.
So that's a start, and I'm going to put ...
Yeah,
for that.
We can
We're just starting with those. But the mad scientist. So would that be kind of our mad scientist, or was there something?
No, I think that would be what their powers, what their things would do, would be combined for effects like that.
Yeah.
So
the mad scientist. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
You alchemy to combine the elements. I'd say alchemy combining the elements.
Yeah. So. I'm thinking, magic. Okay, for instance, you're a fire elementalist. All right, so for instance, applying the fire trapping or the fire attribute to any spell you cast is free. Mm-hmm. Whether you're fire healing or a fire barrier or whether it's a fire attack, it does not matter. It's free for you.
Yeah.
And you do not dabble in any of the other elements. All of your attacks or your defenses all are fire-based.
Cool. That's cool.
Now by combining them and being able to do various different effects with earth, so a fire caster is not going to be able to do what earth guys can do. An earth guy can entangle people with roots and shit like that, and
that's true.
And snare, that's the term I'm searching for.
There it is, yep.
And casting people into stone, so to speak, like these grasping hands that come up out of the earth and grab and stuff like that. That would be a example of an earth attack. Mm-hmm. But by combining the two and having a lava fist that comes out of the maybe this mad scientist has come up with a way to create a lava fist that manifests and ensnares and burns people at the same time.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
It may not be. Maybe it's unstable and not as powerful. Or maybe requires that he has to tweak it constantly, or
maybe it costs more strain. Yeah,
costs more strain was exactly what I was thinking. Yes.
Cool.
Yeah. But he'd be more versatile in more areas of the world. But at the downside of being absolutely hated by all the purists.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, awesome. All right, well that's cool. Wow, we got a lot of stuff that we did here. I'm getting a nice view picture. Of this.
Yeah. Now
I would need to cough.
The hardest part of this whole thing is going to be coming up with a name for it.
Yeah. Maybe that's what we have our tens of listeners do.
Because Shart World was taken. Okay.
Shart World, because it's just a bunch of crap.
I looked it up. It's taken. Don't look it up.
What? Oh man.
You don't want to fall down that rabbit hole. I'm just saying.
Cool. Well, that's a great start to a brainstorm on this world, man. I think we can run with this, can't we, Tony?
Yeah, and then we can go dive into each section individually, come with the way our magic works. We've got an idea now of immediately how it works, but and then
because we combine all of our ideas together, all of our brainstorming ideas into one thing.
So be it.
Yep. Which created a pretty cool thing, by the way.
Yeah. But I mean, then we've got, like we said, we've got to go through. We got to do and create all the species or archetypes. We got to go through and come up with setting rules for the horror aspect, and come up with setting rules for how our runes are going to work, and come up with setting rules for how our magic is going to work. Which I kind of described how I had it in my head a little bit, and then each one of those can be aspects that we go through and talk about in future episodes.
Cool. I like that, man.
So, the last part I wanted to talk about this was, so how do you do a brainstorming session? What's the experience like? Because I wanted to talk about, what was it like for you, Bryan, when you did yours? And now for us, I mean, we've kind of just done this whole, hey, look what's in the pot.
And we stuck it on the wall and made it fit.
Right. Is that kind of the way it worked for your family? Like everybody just kind of came up with an idea and then you tried to incorporate all ideas?
Well, actually, what was interesting was, again, we used that sort of set of rules called microscope. And one of the things that it has you do at the very beginning is you create a list of things you want to have in and things you don't want to appear in the setting. And each person goes through and gets to choose, one thing for each of those lists. So that's actually how we ended up with the anthropomorphic races. If someone said, they didn't want any humans or elves. And so when it came time to create races, we couldn't have humans or elves, so we had to come up with something else. But
I think we should have elves, but they should be extraplanar aliens that come along every once in a while and abduct people.
Oh, yeah. Or they're mutants out there in the wasteland somewhere. Yeah.
They're mutant humans. They became tree-worshipping elves.
Yeah, they're freaks out there. Yeah. So when we did it, that was one of
or emo scimitar wielding,
No, boo. No scimitars. Come on. Boo.
Oh, that's cool.
That belongs.
So you had to come up with stuff. So you had to come up with something that wasn't in there. So you kind of did the opposite and you're like, we just don't want this.
Well, then of course I said I wanted to have dwarves, so
Well, yeah,
that's good.
That was one way that we kind of approached this instead of just before we threw everything in the pot. But again, the rule system that we were using to generate it, led us through that as a part of the process. So I think it was good though.
Yeah.
So as far as our little hodgepodge method here, you think a group could sit down together and do the very same thing and come up with their own unique world?
I think so. Absolutely.
Okay.
If they're creative enough, sure.
That's
or
right.
drunk.
Or yeah, that too.
That helps. Fireball helps everybody.
If you're of age, children.
If you're of age, that's true. Here on the Finding the Narrative podcast, we not condone creating settings and drinking at underage.
Nope. Grown-up fun. Go away.
That's right.
No, just kidding. Well, here in the great state of Michigan, we'll soon be able to smoke our weed and do that too, by the way. It's on the ballot this year. But anyhow.
Medicinal.
No, recreational.
Well,
that's what they're doing.
Then.
They're going to vote. It's going to be interesting.
Yowzers.
So what you're telling us is we got to get this setting completed with you before the vote goes into effect.
Where I work, I wouldn't be able to partake. So. I'm sure that rule won't change, even if Michigan does.
Yeah.
That's true.
So, yeah, I think we have a good set of pillars to build upon, and then we can go through and flesh out the individual walls and ceilings and floors and all that.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Right. I got a good sense of the setting. It's pretty cool.
Cool, yeah. All right, so on to the next section then. Put setting the tone to rest.
Yeah, sure.
Everybody, welcome back. Here it's our favorite part of the podcast, Advantageous Threats.
Yay!
And Tony and I have a couple of scenarios here. Brian will be jumping in as a guest GM to help adjudicate this. So feel free to jump in there, Brian, whenever.
Roger. Okay.
Would you like to go first, Tony?
Of course.
I love the name of this dude, by the way. Go ahead.
All right, so my character, Hibiscus the Green Man, a druid-type primal caster in a modern supers setting, wishes to cast his improved signature spell, Awaken the Grove, to have some trees in Central Park come to life and march to Times Square to defend against an extra-dimensional kaiju monster.
Wow.
So...
That's sweet. I hear Gimli going. I hear Treebeard going. Right? Jonathan,
Right.
What was his name again?
Who? What?
The guy who played
Where?
Gimli, who played Treebeard in Lord of the Rings. Because this is treants, man.
Jonathan Rhys Davies talking to himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Voices. Yep. All right. So this is going to be hard coded in as a difficulty for the spell because the way I figured it was conjure, which is difficulty 1. It is grand conjuring, so that adds 2 to it.
Okay.
And then you're trying to +1 ally to have them come friendly, so that increases from 1 to 3 to 4, and then 1 additional to add more trees than just 1. So that would normally be a 5 difficulty spell, but because it's his improved signature spell, he reduces that by 2. So the difficulty is just 3 purple dice.
To make the trees in Central Park come to life.
That's
Right.
pretty cool. Yeah.
And since this is a supers setting, we use the supers setting rule in which his cunning is a super ability. Now, I don't know if everybody knows about the supers setting rule because a lot of people have bypassed it, but it's in the very back of the book.
Oh yeah, yep. That's in the what do you call it? After tones?
Genesis core rule book in the tones on page 250.
Superheroes.
And basically, yes, what it uses for a rule is that you choose 2 of the character's 6 characteristics to be super characteristics, and then any skills they roll that use that characteristic, if they roll a triumph, they get to add another yellow die. Roll it in. It's basically exploding triumphs.
Nice.
Cool.
So for Hibiscus, the Green Man, he has a 4 cunning and a 4 in primal magic. So he's going to start with 4 yellow dice.
Okay.
Now, what kind of situational crap are you going to throw at me this time, buddy?
All right. Well, first off, you're in New York, man. And, no offense to all you New York people, you guys are fucking angry people.
So you're saying the trees are going to be angry too?
The trees are going to be angry, man. I mean, come on. That's an automatic red. That's not... I'm not even going to spend a story point. Man, trees in New York are going to be automatically angry. There we go.
Yeah, well, they're getting pissed on all the time.
Is there a time constraint?
Well, there is a giant kaiju monster raging around Times Square, so yeah, probably.
So you're probably pretty stressed out. I'll say maybe 1 or 2 setback there. Any thoughts there, Brian?
Well, it's winter time, so it's cold, and the trees don't want to, they don't want to come out of the ground and march around.
So that's another setback die.
That's
so I'm
another
looking at 1 for time, 1 for the cold, and an upgrade because the trees are angry.
Right.
You guys hate me any more today? You going to do any more into this or what?
You know what? I think that, as much as I would like to flip over a story point because these trees are super, super angry, no, we're good. Okay. It's close. Even though it's wintertime, it is near the Christmas holiday season, so they are kind of happy too.
There's a few extra because they've got some. Maybe I can go after a big Christmas tree and it'll have.
Dude, there's Christmas trees. You know what? Grab a boost die because there's some happy Christmas trees there too.
Lots of extra Christmas trees around. All right, cool. All right, well, I am going to spend a story point to upgrade, which will add a green die. So we are at full rainbow on my die roll here.
Hey, we always like it when it's full rainbow, man.
That's right. All right, so here goes nothing.
All right.
Well, first of all, I had a triumph, so I will roll in another yellow die.
Oh, that's cool.
Okay, and that added 2 more advantage to my roll. So, we'll start off my my
by
red
the way,
die.
the rules with that is if he would have rolled another triumph, it's another die, and you just keep going. So, anyways, go ahead. Red die came up with?
Yeah, red die just came up with a single failure. That will cancel one of my yellow dice with a single failure on it. I had the 2 purple dice. Each came back with 1 threat apiece. So that will cancel another die, the die that I rolled in, the extra one with the 2 extra advantage.
Okay.
So that leaves me with 1 setback die with a failure on it and a setback die with a threat. I have another one of my yellow dice that has 1 of each of those. Cancel that out, leaving me with a net of a blue die that came up blank. So I have 4 successes and a triumph.
Nice. So the Christmas trees didn't matter.
The Christmas trees did not matter.
No.
But with my triumph.
Yes.
So normally I would be able to add 1 extra ally for 1 advantage with this spell, because I took in the spell it has the additional allies.
Yep.
So what I'd like to do with my triumph is say, instead of having 1 tree, really big tree, I'm going to have 4 extra.
Cool. That sounds good.
So
to me.
grand total 5 really large trees, and I have one of them pick me up, and we start walking slowly towards Times Square.
Nice. Well done.
Way to go, Hibiscus. Yeah.
Way to go, Hibiscus. Oh, that's good. That's good stuff.
How about you, Chris?
I can picture what that looks like, too.
Oh, yeah, and I can picture what the rest of the superheroes in that team are going to be like. Oh, God, what did he bring this time? Are those the trees from Central Park?
So, yeah, I have a lot of notes here because I had to work through all of this because there's some numbers crunching that I needed to do. Anyways, I have, in a Terranoth campaign, not any particular one, I have this guy named Killzak. He's a dwarven dragon hunter.
What do you have against Zach?
I know. He has... Kill Zach. Yeah, I want to kill Zach. I know. Kill Zach. He's actually managed to get close enough to an ancient ancient dragon. And, I just watched Reign of Fire the other day. Remember that one with Matthew McConaughey?
Critically acclaimed, but actually is kind of good.
And Christian Bale.
Yeah, and Christian Bale in that sucker. So I'm picturing...
And Gerard Butler.
Yeah, Gerard Butler's in that too. Yes, it's great. And I just picture him just leaping off this cliff, wanting to bury this ancient dwarven.
It's got to be an axe.
Yeah, it's an ancient dwarven great axe. It's a signature weapon, man, that he wants to just bury into this dragon head, just right into the head. It's called Dragon Blight. It's razor sharp, crap ton of damage. As he's leaping, right, and as an incidental, he's going to activate his signature ability, flipping over a couple of story points, and activating his Rune of Severing, giving the axe a vicious 5 quality.
Shite.
Holy smokes!
All right, and he is a badass, man. He's got a brawn of 5, melee heavy of 4. He's a duelist, so it's +1 a boost die against a single component opponent. I know, I've been working on the Star Wars stuff. Anyway, and then a quick strike. He's basically getting a jump on this guy.
Nice.
And he has lethal blows too. So if he does get a crit with this, he's going to add 70 to this roll.
Wow.
So,
if he crits with it, he's going to add 70% to the roll.
Yeah,
Good
baby.
grief,
And I'm thinking, I'm like, yeah, dude, this guy could do it. He might be able to.
How do you make a Vorpal weapon in Genesis, folks?
That's how you do it. Yeah. However, if anybody has seen Reign of Fire, this dragon could just eat him. Okay,
don't go so well for Matthew McConaughey in that scene.
So,
all right.
Anyways,
You got something here you missed. Do you have Lucky Strike?
Lucky Strike. I get to spend a story point to inflict wounds. So if I hit, Equal to my brawn.
If you hit. So
Wow.
Lucky Strike can be activated in the same turn that you activated your signature ability because it is happening after the roll.
Correct. Now, I would not, if I wanted to use Lucky Strike, I would not be able to, I wouldn't be able to increase, I wouldn't be able to upgrade my check with a story point in this check. Okay?
Correct.
So, it is so basically I'm going to have the 4 yellow, 1 green because of the brawn and melee. I'm going to have 2 blue dice because of my duelist and quick strike. And I'm going to be automatically adding an advantage because it's a superior weapon, being it's a signature weapon. Now, the base difficulty is normally 2 on a melee attack, right? But because of the size difference, this is a silhouette 3 creature, or silhouette 4. So it's actually 1 purple. However, it's adversary 2, so it's a red and a purple.
Wow.
To start with. So this is what I got. Come on, buddy. What you
What's
doing?
the wound threshold on an ancient dragon?
It's like 45. I'm not gonna.
You're not gonna one shot it, but you can probably.
Yes, I could. I could kill it if I roll. If I
could kill it with the right crit.
Yeah. That's kind of what we're going for here, folks.
He's going all or nothing.
I'm metagaming
Kill Zach.
Hey, I'm sorry, but I'm metagaming the fuck out of this this advantage. But anyways, but a character like this, it is possible now.
He's a dragon slayer.
He's a dragon slayer, man. That's what they do.
Yeah, sure. I can see it.
They do.
I would laugh my hysterical anus off just for the fact that you're you're trying it. And
yes.
as GM, I would just because you're doing basically a leap off of high ground onto this thing, right?
Oh yeah.
So
it's gonna hurt. But.
So that's room back. We're into territory for an auto upgrade.
Yep.
Because of the leap.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I'm good with that.
All right. So I don't have my Terranaut book with me. Does the Ancient Dragon have defense?
No, it doesn't. I have it up right now. It's got a wound threshold of 45, by the way. A soak value of 8.
But you know, a dragon doesn't get to be ancient without a certain amount of instinct.
Yep.
Almost supernatural instinct at that. So I'm thinking, even though you're getting the jump on it, just at the last second, it's kind of like it's aware. Maybe a setback just for that.
Okay. I'm good with that. 1 or 2.
Well, ancient dragon, man, I don't know. Maybe 2.
2? Okay.
Well, here's what I was thinking also. I mean, if you're going to be sneaking up on an ancient dragon, you ain't doing it in broad daylight.
Yeah.
Unless you're doing it in the dark.
I'm doing it in the dark.
However, you're a dwarf, so that one's not going to matter. But definitely it would be at night. Mm-hmm. But for a dwarf, I mean, they can immediately remove that setback die due to darkness.
Or 2 of them, or whatever. Yep.
It's up to 2 due to darkness.
That makes sense, yep. Okay.
Yeah, and then, of course, as your GM, this is the big bad. If you're putting your players up against an ancient dragon, it's the big bad at the end of either a campaign arc or at least the end of a very long adventure.
Yep. Story point worthy, right?
Very story point worthy to keep this thing around as a GM. So I flip, and I'm sure Bryan agrees with me there.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, and that actually adds a purple die. So I've got 4 yellow. Yeah, again, yet another rainbow roll. We have 4 yellow, a green, 2 blue, 2 red, 8 purple, and then we said 2 setback dice. Because this thing is cunning, it can see me, and it can smell me.
It's smelling you.
Well, I'm a dwarf. It smells me. Right? All right, here we go. Come on, kill Zach. Let's not kill Zach. Oh, wait a second. Maybe that's the name of the dragon.
Maybe the dragon's name is Zach.
All right, here we go. Okay, then. Okay, so you're not going to eat me. No despair, just to let you know. All right. So we're going to cancel those. So I got some successes, some failures.
He's holding this one close to his sleeve.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like there's a triumph coming.
There's not a triumph, but
he's like, do I have the advantage? Do I have a hit with advantage?
Yes, I do. I only need one advantage to crit the thing. So, all right. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 failures canceled out by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 successes. Not going to do a lot of damage, but we have. Well, I will. But I have two threat canceled by 2 or 4 advantage.
Did you count in the advantage from superior?
3 advantage. Thank you for that.
3 advantage, 1 success.
So this is what we're doing. So 1 6,
roll.
2 successes. My damage is a base 12, so that's going to be 14 of his 45. Which he'll soak
with a
8
soak
of,
of 8. So he'll take 6.
What's most important, though, is this crit is a 1. So I have 3, and I'm gonna activate this 3 times, which means I get to add 100% to this crit roll.
Oh my!
100%. You get to add two more, so it's 90, right?
Yeah, it's 90.
90. Pardon me. Yep, 90. So I get to add. So, Tony, would I guess in this case, the GM, or Brian, would you like to roll my percentile dice?
Oh, crap. You know what? I actually don't have any dice near
I have some. All right. Or Tony, do you want to go ahead and roll it?
No, I don't have any on me. Go ahead.
Here we go. Okay.
I wasn't expecting this. This is great.
Yeah. All right,
I was hoping you'd despair on this roll, and I'd just have the thing eat you.
Well, but we have to adjudicate that last, right? All right, here we go. 92, baby! Here, let me take a picture. I'll take a picture of it.
So you've warbled this thing.
Yes,
he just beheaded an ancient dragon with 1 blow.
182%, everybody. That is what is that said on the crit chart? That's an auto kill, right?
That is a killed. Yes, dead. In 150 plus.
Wow.
Now, does the ancient dragon have anything that helps mitigate that at all?
No.
Okay, so for future reference, mine will have the ability for the GM to turn 2 story points to reduce any one critical to 0-1.
Yeah, so everybody out there. But the thing is, the thing that the ancient dragon does have is a word of unmaking.
Yeah.
Now, how often would Killzak be able to sneak up on a ancient dragon? Who knows? But you know what? This is advantageous threats, baby.
Right. And you're talking about a character who's looking at where you've got him sitting with all that stuff. He's probably sitting at 500 earned XP. Oh, yeah. With all the to be able to have his signature weapon have so many different things on it.
Well, to get the Rune of Severing, I'd have to have at least 50 for it to be an ancient weapon. To get Lethal Blows 2, though, Lethal Blows is a tier 3 or a tier. I think it's a tier 3, so I'd at least have to have a tier 4 talent.
Right, and then I figure with a Brawn of 5, you're going to most likely have to have had dedication.
At least once. At least, yeah, so that's a 5th tier. So, yeah, so you're talking
at a minimum of 250 to 300 earned XP. Yeah. Wow. That's pretty cool, though. I like it.
I had to try it, man. I wanted to kind of get it so that it's like, I got a 50-50 chance of just slaying this thing outright. So that's pretty cool.
That was excellent. All right. Well, that's advantageous threats, unless you want to add one, Brian.
No, I'm good.
You're good.
All
right. All right. Oh, well, by the way, he had Pierce 2 on that axe, too.
Oh, so
that's important. Yeah.
He took 8 wounds before his head was lopped off. Oh. Sorry. Okay, so you severed his tongue when you severed his head, too.
Exactly.
Now, did you talk about the words of unmaking? Could the dragon sense that the rune-bound shard is within medium range and make that daunting arcana check before the attack?
It could potentially do that.
I have done that. So yeah, I'm sure in a real campaign setting, that dwarf would not have gotten within 100 feet unnoticed. But then again,
all his buddies are dying.
This is the game of possibilities, and anything's possible. He could have rolled 4 triumphs on his stealth roll to get there, so we don't know that. So
very true. Maybe some other time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We'll do this again in an alternate.
Tarantino the shit out of that.
Yeah, we might.
I sneak up on the dragon.
Maybe that'll be my next one. All right, everybody. Hope you guys enjoyed that.
Yeah, and that was our just threats. Let's go end this thing.
Let's end it. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening to that and putting up with us tonight. With their settings and and the one shotting of ancient dragon. Woohoo! So I'm gonna give a shout out to the Wild Die. On they basically talk about everything Savage Worlds. Run with these guys Eric Lamoureux, Harrison Hunt, Gary McCallum. They're got a Patreon page, Google Plus. They're members of our community here, the Nerds International community. You can email them at thewilddie@gmail.com. And we got a Podbean feed too.
All right.
Yeah, good stuff.
They also have a mad crazy Australian over there that they've had as a seasonal host. It's been a real good summer listening to them.
Oh, good. Cool.
Yeah, they've had Pure Mongrel on.
Nice.
Paris Conte. Yeah, he's been on there talking to him all summer long. So it's been very fun listening to that.
Cool.
So we've got some events coming up.
Mm-hmm.
We have Nerds International Virtual Con coming up September 15th. There's still games available for Savage Worlds. There's like 3 or 4 D&D games that have nobody playing in them. Might be because of the time frame, or might be just people haven't signed up. Go sign up. It's fun.
Mm-hmm.
You get to play on Roll20 or on Fantasy Grounds or even just over Skype or even Tabletop Simulator. It's a whole weekend of games being run all hours of the day.
Yep.
My Deep Madness game, unfortunately, is full.
Yep.
I even left a spot on there for Chris to play.
Yes,
absolutely.
So
I have six full players, and that's going to go well. I hope.
Now, did the Meg inspire you for this too?
No, actually, I got my inspiration from I kickstarted a board game about a year and a half ago, and I've been just dying to get a hold of this board game. It's called Deep Madness, and it is set in it's a Cthulhu-esque adventure set in a deep sea mining facility.
That's cool.
And there's all kinds of monsters and artwork for it, and I've been plugging all that into Fantasy Grounds and making the NPCs for it or the characters for it, and having fun getting that all ready to go. And so in 2 weeks we're going to have that fun.
Oh geez, that's right. That is in a couple weeks, isn't it?
Yeah, and then just a couple months down the road we have Con on the Cob. Yep,
in Richfield, Ohio. It's a little south of Cleveland, about a half an hour south of Cleveland, and it's a small little convention that is a ton of fun. And the Nerds International members we met last year, and at there, Jamie looked at Tony and I said, "You guys should do a Genesys podcast." We're like, "All right,
all right." So here we are.
Mm-hmm. And hey, Bryan, come join us, man, if you want.
Yeah. It's November 8th through the 11th, and we're going to be there. We might record a show while we're there. We're definitely going to be on the RPG Brewery on a live stream on Saturday night. Mm-hmm. And all of us that are going to be there will be on that live stream.
Yep.
And then that's pretty much all we've got coming up.
Yep, pretty much.
All right.
So how about you, Bryan?
Oh yeah, go ahead. You got anything coming up, Bryan?
Anything coming up or anything?
Nope. No, I don't. Sorry.
Just games.
No.
Starting a Star Wars campaign, though.
Yeah, we're starting a new Star Wars campaign after we wrap up our Kindness campaign.
Nice.
Cool.
Yep.
That is cool.
I've got 2 of them going currently. Two Star Wars campaigns. One set 1 year after the end of the Clone Wars, and one set right around the same time as Solos. a bunch of rebel freedom fighters embedded in Kashyyyk, trying to recruit Wookiees into the cause.
Oh yeah, that's fun. That is pretty fun. Well, Bryan, man, dude, thanks for coming on, man, and taking the time to hang out.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It was fun.
Yeah, it's nice meeting you, man.
Yeah, too.
All right. So you can contact us at findingthenarrativepodcast@gmail.com. Email us over there. You can get a hold of me on Facebook, and I always pass that on to Chris at Finding the Narrative. Finding the Narrative is also in the Nerds International with a hyphen network on Google+, and you can listen to us anywhere you listen to your podcasts, Podbean, iTunes, YouTube, and now on Google Play.
That's right.
So this is Tony saying, keep rolling them bones.
And this is Chris saying, remember the rule of cool and just have fun, everybody. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Finding a Narrative podcast is not affiliated with or endorsed by any companies mentioned on this show. Any of the products mentioned on our show or appear on our website are the property and copyright of their respected owners. All items are used under fair use and educational and review purposes. All other items are the intellectual property of Finding a Narrative podcast. Copyright 2018, all rights reserved.